On numbers 21 through 23, you're supposed to identify the center of the circle, the radius of the circle, and then sketch its graph. So these equations are not going to be in the standard form where you can see the center and radius. You're going to have to complete the square in order to get them in that form. So the first thing you need to know is that when you are getting ready to complete the square, your x squared and y squared values must be positive. So in this equation, the y squared is positive, but the x squared is negative on this side. So that'll have to come over here to this side so that the x squared will become positive. You want to get your x and y terms on the same side as your x squared and y squared, and you want to group them, the x's together and the y's together. Your constant should be on the other side of the equation. So let's go ahead and get this one ready. First of all, we need the negative x squared to move to the other side. We need the negative 6x to move with it, and the negative 8y has to move over as well to be over here with the y squared, which means the 21 needs to be on the other side. So it's also going to have to move. So I've circled everything that's moving. The only thing not moving is the y squared because it's positive already on this side. So the negative x squared I'm going to write first as positive x squared on the left side of the equation. The negative 6x will go next, but it's positive on the left side of the equation. Then my y squared, which is already positive on the left side. Then the negative 8y will come over to the left side and become positive 8y. On the right side of the equation, the 21 is going to move over there, and it's going to become negative. Everything changes signs when it changes sides. So the next thing we can do is complete the square. Completing the square creates a perfect square trinomial. To complete the square, remember you always find half of your b value. B is the number in front of your linear term, the term to the first power. So this is your b for your x's, and this is your b for the y's. After you find half of b, you're going to square it, and you have to add this to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. So my b value in my x's is 6. Half of 6 is 3, and then I'm going to square 3 to get 9. So I'm going to add 9 to complete this perfect square trinomial for my x's. I can't forget that on the other side of the equation, I also have to add 9 to the negative 21 to keep my equation balanced. Now for my y's, my b value is 8, half of 8 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to add 16 to complete the perfect square trinomial for the y's, and I'm going to add it to the other side to keep it balanced. Now I can factor each one of these perfect square trinomials. They're called perfect square trinomials because when you factor them, both binomials are exactly the same, so you can just write that binomial as being squared. So you're going to have that for both of the x and the y trinomial. When you're writing the binomial, of course, this one will contain the x and this one will contain the y. And to find the other number in the binomial, all you have to do is find your half of b value. Half of 6 is positive 3, so this is a positive 3. Half of 8 is positive 4, so this is positive 4. On the other side of the equation, negative 21 plus 9 plus 16 is a positive 4. 9 plus 16 is 25. 25 minus 21 is 4. This number better be a perfect square, or you're going to have a hard time graphing your circle, because remember, this is r squared, so you're going to have to take the square root of it. So now we can identify our center and radius. Remember, the equation is x minus h, so my h is actually a negative 3. X minus negative 3 is the same thing as x plus 3. So the h of my center is negative 3, the opposite sign of what's in the equation. My k is negative 4, the opposite of what's in the equation. My radius is not 4. Remember, that's the r squared value. So we have to take the square root of 4, which is 2. So now I'm ready to graph my circle. I'm going to go to the point negative 3, negative 4, and place a point. That's my center point. I'm going to use my radius of 2 to go 2 units to the right, 2 units above, 2 units to the left, 2 units to below to get 4 good points on the circle, and then I can just sketch a circle going through those 4 points. On number 22, we need to get the equation ready to be graphed again by getting x squared and y squared positive. They're both negative on the right side of the equation, so that tells me they need to move. I want my x on the same side as my x squared. So since x squared's coming over here, 4x is going to stay over there. It's already on the left side. But the y is going to have 2y is going to have to move to be on the left side with the y squared. The constant needs to be on the other side, so it can't be on the left side with all the x and y's, so it's also going to have to move to the right side. So these are all the terms that are moving. The only thing staying on the left side is the 4x. So the negative x squared is coming over and becoming positive x squared. The 4x is staying on the left side, so it's still positive 4x. The negative y squared is coming over to become positive y squared. The positive 2y is coming over as well, so it's going to become a negative 2y. And the 1 is going to go to the right side and become a negative 1. So everything that changes sides has to change signs. Now I'm ready to complete the square. So remember, I'm going to take half of my b value. For my x's b is 4, half of 4 is 2, and then square it. 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add 4 to create the perfect square trinomial for the x's. When I add 4 to the left side of the equation, I have to remember to add it to the right side of the equation as well. Now I'm going to complete the square for the y's. My b value for the y's is a negative 2. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. When I square negative 1, don't forget, if you're going to put that in your calculator, put it in parentheses. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. Anytime you square a number, you'll get a positive number. So we're going to add 1 to the right side as well. So what you're adding will always be positive since you're squaring it. So here's our perfect square trinomial for the y's. Now I can factor these perfect square trinomials. Remember, they will be binomials squared, and you'll be adding those together. This is the one for the x's, this is the one for the y, and this number is always half of b. Half of positive 4 is positive 2. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. And on the right side, negative 1 and positive 1 cancel, so we're just left with 4. Now I can identify the center of my circle. It's the opposite sign for my h, so it's going to be negative 2. Opposite sign for my y, so it's going to be a positive 1. And remember, this is the r squared value, so my radius is the square root of 4, which is 2. Now I can graph that circle by going to the point negative 2, 1, and then using my radius to go 2 units to the right, 2 units above, 2 units to the left, and 2 units below. And then sketch my circle through those 4 points. On number 23, we need to get it ready to complete the square again. The y squared is already on the left side and it's positive. The x squared is on the right side as negative, so it needs to come over here to become positive. My x term's already on the left side, so it doesn't need to move, but my 8y needs to move to the left side to be with the y squared. The negative 16, the constant, is going to be on the right side by itself, so it doesn't need to move. So the negative x squared is moving over to become positive x squared. The negative 6x is staying on the left side. The y squared is already on the left side as a positive, and the 8y needs to move over with it, so it becomes a negative 8y. On the right side, the negative 16 is not moving, so it's staying a negative 16. So only the things moving to the other side change signs. The things that are staying, even though they're getting moved around, are not changing signs because they're not changing sides. Now we can complete this square. For our x's, the b value is negative 6. Half of negative 6 is negative 3. And when we square negative 3, it's a positive 9. So again, we're going to add that positive 9 to both sides. For my y's, the b value is negative 8. Half of negative 8 is negative 4. But when we square negative 4, we get a positive 16. So I'm going to add that to both sides. Now I'm ready to factor both perfect square trinomials. So my binomial with the x's, my half of b, half of negative 6 is negative 3, plus my binomial with my y's, half of negative 8 is negative 4, and on the other side, the negative 16 and the positive 16 cancel. I'm just left with a 9. So remember, this is just always half of b, so whatever sign b had, this is what's going to be inside your parentheses. Now we're ready to identify the center and the radius. The center, your h value is the opposite of that sign, so it's a positive 3. K is opposite of that sign, it's a positive 4. And this is not my radius, this is the radius squared. The square root of 9 is 3. So now I can graph my circle by going to the point 3, 4, and placing a point, and then using my radius of 3 to go 3 units to the right, 3 units above, 3 units to the left, and 3 units to below. And then I can sketch the circle through those 4 points.